Well, I guess that's everyone. Wow, what a view I have from here. This room is full, and it is an incredibly beautiful sight because we're coming back to celebrate something extraordinary. Throughout my time here, I've talked frequently with Rick Hart, and as you know, Rick was our union director from 1980 to 2010, right, Rick?
11.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. He often said that very meaningfully, I'm with you all the way. And secondly, every 25 years or so, you should do something special at the union. So just following orders. So what this is today is a culmination of a series of years of GM-PU collaboration, student-staff partnership, just a lot of ideas, a lot of dreaming, a lot of scheming, and just a lot of fun thinking that we could actually do something this special. Obviously, to get here, it took a lot of people to do different things with their skill sets. Architecture Plus, the team over there, they did a whole lot of design, and frankly, they did it on a quick time frame. The people from LaChase Construction, same thing. We said last January we wanted to be done the Friday before freshmen move in. And we meant it, and they delivered. So we are proud to be able to say this project was on budget and on time. At the same time as Rick has been in my corner from the beginning, I can't represent us in any way, shape, or form without acknowledging the countless people that are calling me, texting me, taking walks around the campus, whatever, just to encourage me and support me on our behalf. But it's always been about the partnership. It's always been about the student-centeredness, the student experience, the centrality of that, and the remarkable growth that occurs during the GM and PU years, and the board member years, whether you're GM or PU or not. I really want to thank our president, Marty Schmidt, Provost Dorge, Vice President Haratsky. These are three people right every day that I know I can count on to back this enterprise that we're so proud of. One person that can't be here today is Bob Rao. He's the project manager from Facility Services. He would call me, he would text me, he would send me pictures of what they got done on a given day if I wasn't around the project that day. He knew how much it meant to all of us to be done on time. Now, something that is just present in the room is a lot of exhilaration that our student union is healthy, it's directional, it's intentional, it's inclusive. And so we are proud to be able to thank you all for coming, but not only that, there's some special efforts being made. The class of 1979 is dedicating their 50th anniversary gift to the union to support this space. Susan Brunell is here, Mary Bailey Skevington is here, and John Kessler cannot be here, but he is certainly here in my mind. And there you go, there you go, there you go. And if you haven't noticed, they mean business. Okay. So a couple of other specific thank yous. This past year, we saw a revival effort of the Albert M. Harper Fund. This was named after the first Grand Marshal and established by Mark Feinstein. It was originally inspired by a conference he attended with then President George Lowe. This fund will support new student initiatives, traditions, and leadership development. Thank you, Mark. Mark is here today. I mentioned that this is a continuous and enduring student-staff partnership. Each year I have the honor to work with any number of the student leaders in the different clubs and organizations, but certainly most specifically the Student Senate and the Student Executive Board. In this regard, I'd like to introduce our PU for this year, Izzy Lieber. She's the class of 25 and a graduate class of 26, the 136th President of the Union. Izzy.
Yep, I'm short. Hi, thank you, Dr. Potts, and thank you all for being here today. It's such an honor to be standing here in front of all of you in this brand new space. I've had the privilege of being involved in this project, and I'm happy to be finally standing here at its completion, although we still have much room to learn and grow with these spaces. I was able to see it go through the evolution and actually experience it myself. Throughout the 4 years here, I was a frequent visitor of not only the games room, but also of Mothers as a member of the improv troupe Shiri DC. And that was a group we practically lived in Mothers. So I got to know that space very well. As a freshman, the seniors, when I was there, they would tell us tales of this renovation, this magical thing that was going to be happening, and that would get rid of Mothers. And we would always wonder, we'd be like, oh, every year we'd ask, what are we going to do next year if Mothers is gone? And then year after year, it didn't happen. And then it did. So I joined the executive board, and around the end of my junior year, the discussions started, or I became part of the discussions. I heard more about the discussions brought back up. And over the course of the following year, the plans were refined and updated and had inputs from students and staff, and including myself, and we're finally making it possible, making it happen. That fabled tale that the seniors always told us was actually happening. We never believed them, and now it's here. So yeah, from the perspective of the user, of someone who used Mothers all the time, of course we were sad that the space was changing, but we're excited. We had so many memories in there from practices and shows, and I was even lucky enough to be part of the last ever performance in that space. But my story didn't end there, because now I have this unique opportunity to be part of this new process and these new spaces. It started with our wall breaking back last spring. We all gathered in the lounge where the theater currently is now, and we drew all over the walls, and then we took a sledgehammer and broke the walls. And it was a lot of fun, and I still have a piece of the wall sitting upstairs in the GMPU office as a memento of that day. Throughout the summer, I saw the weekly progress on the spaces, and each time I saw it was amazed me, and I was excited about the progress because there was something different, something new each time I came down here. And it was really exciting to see that transformation as it became a completely new space. As you can all see, there was the video playing earlier today as we were mingling. It's really transformed. And, everything is brighter and fresher, and there's so much possibility here. So at the end of the summer, I came back, and there was a whole new first floor. Everything's brighter, fresher, modern, and a lot of potential, not just for the union, but for the students and the clubs that it represents. Every day I walk by, I see students studying in this room, playing ping pong, playing pool, playing in the games, and even performing in the theater. I was lucky enough to not only be part of the last performance in Mothers, but also the first performance in the theater a few weeks ago, and it was a really great space to perform in. Seeing all of these spaces as a performer, as a student, and as student government and the president of the union, I see so many possibilities for the students and clubs, and there's so much potential here in all of these spaces, and I'm very excited to see how they continue to grow and be used. Thank you to everyone who contributed and continue to contribute to this project. I'll turn it back to Dr. Potts now. Thank you.
I do want you to know. And her sledgehammer was about the same size. I do want you to know that I auditioned with the Sheer Idiocy group last spring. I was not asked back, so tough crowd, you know. Yeah.
24-hour show.
Oh, yeah, there you go. So now I'd like to introduce our 159th Grand Marshal. T is his nickname, Benavides, and he is the class of 21 as an undergraduate, but he is now also a PhD candidate in biochemistry and biophysics. T.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's an honor to stand here today in a place that has witnessed generations of student leadership and countless moments of community. The Rensselaer Union is not just a building, it's a living institution, one that for over a century has reflected the spirit, ambition, and voice of RPI students. Every GM and PU who has come before us helped shape that legacy. They faced challenges, imagined possibilities, and left their mark, not for themselves, but for those who followed in their footsteps. In many ways, leadership at RPI has been an act of stewardship, carrying the torch a little bit further before passing it on. Today, we are gathered to celebrate a renewal of that legacy. This investment in the union represents the most substantial enhancement to the student experience I have seen in my 8 years at RPI. It is a reaffirmation of faith in what happens under this roof, where ideas take root, friendships form, and leaders are made. To see this space revitalized as a place for gathering, performance, and celebration is more than a renovation. It's a promise that the history we inherit continues to evolve and that future generations of students will have the space and support to create their own chapters in RPI's story. As we cut this ribbon today, we honor the countless students, alumni, faculty, and staff whose dedication brought us here, and we look forward to the generations who will follow, building upon this foundation with the same passion and purpose that have defined the Rensselaer spirit for over 250 years. That's the end of my rather sterile remarks from the seat of GM. But I wanted to give a personal note. I want to be sure that we're doing our due diligence here and to give credit where credit is due. This project has been a long time in the making, and there was, of course, a huge student-staff partnership. But it has been my experience and my observation that really one person disproportionately put in the work, busted their butt, and grinded their gears to make this project a reality, to make our dreams a reality through their persistent passion, diligence, and dedication. So with that, on behalf of student government, Izzy and I and all our predecessors would like to sincerely thank Dr. Charlie Potts for all the work he has put into this project. This union really wouldn't be the same place without you, Dr. Potts. We could not have found a better advocate and friend for the student body in you. So thank you very much.
Well, Marty, you're up. That's a tough act to follow. Our president, Marty Schmidt, class of 81.
Thanks, Charlie, and really great remarks, Izzy and T. Lovely to hear you. So welcome back, everybody. I've actually been looking forward to this event since I learned that you were going to hold this event, because really the GMs and the PUs are, and all of the student leaders that shape their leadership in the student union, in participating in student government, are so impressive, and as I've gotten to know many of you over the years, just really am blown away. You know, as an undergraduate here, I was a beneficiary of your work, but I never really understood the union, other than the fact that there was beer on tap over there. Well, it's a little more than that, but coming back has been really special to develop a really deeper appreciation of what the union is all about. This space is amazing. It's remarkable. I can't remember if I ever bowled here, but I think what you've created is definitely a huge improvement. But, you know, I think what I've learned over the past 3 years as president of RPI is just really how amazing the student-run union is. It's absolutely unique, in my opinion. There's a level of agency which students have over their education at RPI that is, I think, unrivaled at any other institution. And what it does, in my observation, is it allows us to have dialogues across differences. When I watch the student government at work, tackling challenging questions, should we allow this club to exist? What if this club goes off the rails? What are we going to do? And to have those conversations in a civil way is just absolutely stunning, absolutely stunning. So I could tell you all kinds of stories, but two I would mention. One is, it's my firm belief that the muscle memory that the Rensselaer Union established in our students was what got us through the challenging environments on other campuses after October 7th. It absolutely, in my mind, was the students and their capacity to hold us together. But on a funnier note, some of you heard me tell this story, but my first year here, every once in a while I would get an email from a student with instructions on what I should do differently at the university. And I learned what I would do is I would send it to the Dean of Student Life at the time, who was Vice President of Student Life, was Peter Komorski then. So Lynn and I toured 19 cities on the presidential tour the first year. When we went to Phoenix, we landed in Phoenix, and I opened up my email as I think we were in the car going to the hotel, and here's an email from a student. And the student, it was a pretty interesting email, said that this student was very upset that they like to work out in the morning, but the Mueller Center doesn't open until 8 a.m., and their first class is at 8 a.m. So that doesn't work for them. Some of his friends were taking Planet Fitness or other places, but he thought that didn't make sense for him. And he did his research, and he discovered that the reason why the the Mueller Center wasn't opening earlier was because they couldn't get the staffing to be available that early in the day, like at 6 a.m. And he further surmised that the reason why they couldn't get the staffing is that they weren't paying the staff enough to be able to want to be there. And so my instructions were to simply raise the wages of the staff that work in the Mueller Center so that they could open earlier. So I sent this off to Peter Konwersky, as I always did, and said, Peter, what should I do with this? Went to sleep, woke up in the morning, I opened the email. Sure enough, Peter was always very prompt, so there was an email in my inbox, and the answer was, Marty, you can't do anything because it's run by the students. I was like, I love the union. Because at any other campus, it'd be a circular firing squad with the administration in the middle. And to their credit, within 2 weeks, it was open earlier. True story. So I want to really thank you. I look forward to seeing many of you over reunion and homecoming weekend. Is Bill Duggan here? I didn't. Where are you? So you have the incoming GM and outgoing GM for me. So Mark's there, was GM when I was a freshman. Bill's there, was GM when I graduated. Thank you guys. And of course, I want to echo T. Charlie's been a huge asset to this community. We talk often, especially when things are going a little wonky, but a steady hand on the keel, really respects the student agency element of the operation of the union, and I think we're blessed to have you, Charlie. So thank you all. Thanks for all being here.
Thank you very much, Marty, and thanks everybody for coming. Again, it's a room full of support, and that's what the union so appreciates, because you can see that it takes all generations to keep this thing moving forward. Now we're going to celebrate by cutting the ribbon. Now a few logistics. We'll do it right in front here. The cameras and everything are ready to go. Izzy and T, if you'll join us in the middle, and I think we have the scissors. Rick, you and me will handle the we will have hard hats, so it is a construction moment. So Marty and Rebecca, please join us. Rob, please join us. Rick, grab a helmet here, and we will do what we can. Melissa, here, you'll just have to figure. We didn't size it, but you know. Where's the ribbon? There's Rebecca. Okay.
I would like the yellow one.
Oh, yeah, you're on that end, and the ribbon is here.
You get them to school. Goodbye.
Sorry about that. I knew I was going to get from one or the other. Okay, Rick, you got this end, because that'll be doing the letters out. Okay. Yeah, the
Make sure
RPI
the
is up.
RPI is the right side.
The RPI is up.
Can you guys pull your name?
Hey, Izzy, you look a lot taller.
Okay, look here. Cut.
All right.
Well done. Who said that?
Can you go in front? They're going to need to take. I know.
Okay. Our next episode of our event is a panel. And Mark, if Mark Rice can join me, Will and Aaron, if you'll pull the tables off. We have 5 past GMs and PUs. And Mark is going to moderate their conversation. Good luck. Good luck.
Come on, GMs and Ds, come on up.
Oh, you are.
Infinitely
Get yours out.
Good afternoon. So we have a distinguished panel. They're already networking up here, as you can see. We have approximately 45 minutes, minus whatever we're running over, but we'll just keep going here for a little bit. I think until Neil or Charlie say, you're done. So we have this amount of time, and it will not surprise you that every single one of these people could use the entire time themselves. Is that true, guys?
Yeah, we are politicians.
Yeah, exactly. However, we've negotiated a different deal. They're each going to get a maximum of 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Yeah, thanks, Rick. And here's what I suggested they do with the 2 minutes. Whatever they want. However, they might talk a little bit about their life journey since leaving RPI. They might talk a little bit about their time as a student leader, either a challenge or something that was really fantastic. And I've asked them to think about a fun fact that they could share with you. They're going to introduce themselves, but to model what I think of as a fun fact, I'm going to say the following. The Rensselaer Union opened my freshman year. Yes, I was on the ring committee my senior year as the Grand Marshal. And on my class of 71 ring, on one side is a picture of the Rensselaer Union. Okay, come on, you guys got to compete. So with that, I'd like to turn the floor over to Ann Farrar. Please use the mic, Ann.
All right, so I gotta go first.
Yes.
All right, so I'm gonna start with one of the hardest things I did as president of the union was so I got to cut a ribbon, we opened the pub. That was the easy part. The hardest part was getting 32 board of trustees to give me their fingerprints and say, we swear we're gonna be responsible with alcohol. If you couldn't party, you couldn't go right over there because the floor was all sticky by the time I got here. So it was and I can't bring my son into the pub yet because he's still only 19. So it was kind of one of the challenging things that I had. And if I want to do my life is a legacy in many, many ways. So I was one of the student leaders as a grad student, and I found it was much easier to do the PU job in a way I thought I got the most out of as a grad student. And on my way to my PhD, I happened to get an MRS. And my son, when he toured the school, got to see the room where I met his father. So my husband's a PhD in electrical engineering from RPI. My brother-in-law is an RPI grad. My sister actually was here the night that I won PU in the hall crying with me. And I do have to say there's one other thing I want to mention is if it wasn't for Linda McCluskey, I actually would not be here because probably unlike some of you, I actually lost the first time I ran and I was so miserable. I thought I had failed as a person. And she put me in a room and said, listen, does your mom love you? Does your sister still love you? Will you still be the person you are today if you lose again? And I was like, oh, I guess I have nothing to lose. I guess I'll try again. And my mom came up and she sat in the front and the guy I was running against was like, your mom is intimidating. I was like, she's a 5-foot Sicilian lady. But it was one of those life lessons of it is okay to fail. And you learn and you get better. And there are times where it's not a great time to fail, but that was an okay time to do it. And it was a safe space to do it.
Thank you.
How did I do?
There, you're up next.
Is this on all the way?
I don't know, let's try.
Can you hear me? I'm really soft-spoken because I'm actually an introvert, if you can believe that. Anyways, my name is Mary, and I have to tell you a story about how I got to RPI. I had a tour with a tour guide. His name is John Malatoris.
Oh.
He was my tour guide. And I was with my dad, and I had my interview, and I'd asked the admissions person, whoever the hell, what are my chances of getting in? And the guy said 50-50, so I wasn't that good of a student. So I was determined actually to go. John was the tour guide, and because I saw that tour and I heard what the student union did, I was determined to get in, and I got in. So anyways, fast forward, I was in the Senate for a while. I have to say, I really didn't know what I was doing most of the time. I played hockey, broke my jaw, I think my junior year. I wore a face mask. But I always did some student government stuff because I actually liked it. And I liked the money part of it. I probably should have been the PU, not the GM. But my fondest moments are actually in the union. And I actually, fun fact, I don't know if they still do this, but I was like with the weekend super or something during the summer. I don't know, was that a paid job, Rick? I can't remember. Anyways, I learned how to play pool in that room, and all the Dungeons and Dragon geeks were teaching me Dungeons and Dragons, and the guys down there were buying me beers, and I was learning how to play pool. So I learned how to play pool here. But after my career with RPI, I got hired by IBM. Where there's just a mafia of Rensselaer grads. And I was there for 38 years. I never thought I would do that, but 38 years. I guess one of the things I want to say is the reason I got my job at IBM was not because I was a good student, but because I was a student leader. And I was actually the first woman GM, and I got a lot of local press about that. And my design partner in chem design was working at IBM, and he said, you got to hire this woman. And that's how I ended up getting my job. And I was there for 38 years, loved it. I got to use my engineering degree, my business stuff. I loved money. I ended up retiring about 3 years ago, and this is my first time back to campus in a while, and I'm totally revved up about being here. And Mark, thank you very much for doing this, and for Maria and the rest of the staff for putting this together, because it's actually very cool. Thank you. And I left a big mess for Richie, because I think I might have been the first GM who couldn't get the Senate to vote and pass the fee because of the grad students who didn't want to pay an extra $6 a year on their fee.
I was not in, my name is Richie Gosper. I was not in student government, but I actually think what Dr. Schmidt said, it's student leadership, right? So I ran WRPE, I did hot games on the radio, and I did a bunch of stuff, and I got drafted to run for GM. I had a really rough year. The president died, the drinking age went up, Mary couldn't get the activity fee passed. Then we had to quickly get a new president, who was the acting president when George was sick, and George was unbelievable to all of us. I mean, George was like the father figure to all of us. And then it ended well because we won the national championship. But, you know, I'm 21 years old, and I have to give the student speech at George Lowe's funeral. And I'm, you know, all my pals were at Elders or Sutters, and I'm with Rick and Dean Eddie Knowles, Dr. Knowles, writing a speech for somebody. And yeah, I did stuff on the radio, but the radio, you're just yakking away. You can't say anything. I'm in front of, was it 2,000 people? I mean, this was a national memorial for this guy. And it was hard. And I'm like, crap, you know? And you learned tremendous things. I learned a lot running WRPE. I learned a lot more being a GM. And I have, I don't want to bore you with it, you can go to my LinkedIn. I've had the most magical career anybody's ever had in the media business. And I've probably hired 100 or 200 people out of college. I've hired a couple hundred more, thousands of people working for me in big orgs around the world. I didn't care about the grades. Yeah, I was a management guy. I didn't care about the grades. Let's not kid yourself, guys. I'm in media. This was not aerospace. But what I cared about, everybody I hired, were you a leader? Were you a club president? Were you the secretary of a club? Did you run the radio station? Did you run players? Were you a captain of a team? I didn't care if you competed and you in college and you didn't just sit there and study, and you did anything, if you ran any organization, because when you hire somebody in the workplace, this is for all the undergrads in the room, you're not hiring a GPA, you're hiring to say, can they be a leader? Can they lead? And that's a real 50-50 shot, but one of the great indicators of that is, were they in student government? Were they in leadership of a club or something like that? That has paid off 1,000 times over in my career. Finding those people out of college or a couple years out of college that were in a leadership and did something other than just do their classwork. And I really believe that RPI, yes, engineering, all that, I believe that the student leadership and the student-run government, Charlie and Rick and Eddie Knowles and Lee Wilcox and everything, we are the greatest incubator of leadership. I don't care if it's engineering, aerospace, media, whatever, that the student-run union and the student-run clubs is one of the most important DNA aspects of this school. And I'm so glad Dr. Schmidt is back and we welcome that back. And I think we need to celebrate that. And that entrepreneurship is what the future is going to need. That is what every business leader is looking for today.
I agree.
Richie, thanks.
Mark, I think these are Cheesecake Factory minutes, very large portions.
I haven't done
We get to, hey, Michael, we're going to divide your 2 minutes by pi.
Irrational number. Michael Zwack, I actually was born and raised in Stephentown, New York. Named after Stephen Van Rensselaer. He actually had the town named after him in his early 20s. Right, and then he comes and does this, you know, talk about victory laps. You know, I came to RPI as an elementary and high school student, competed in Future City competition, actually in the union, played in the bowling alley. You know, if anything, RPI and student government and being GM it was kind of a test on solving the unsolvable solution, right? My class years, some of the student programming was coming in, and people were asked to be on campus, people were asked to, do an arch program, and we tried to see what we can, squeeze lemons and make lemonade out of it. And, a big contentious issue was second year, where am I going to have to, I'm going to have to stay on campus with my student housing grant. And, we finagled a way for, if you went to your Greek house, those scholarship dollars moved. And so suddenly you could see sunlight out of what everybody thought was a bad problem. And fast forward years later, that vehicle ended up being a donation vehicle for alumni to then donate to their fraternity through the Institute. And as I heard today, since that started, over $1 million has been raised to that. So probably not the idea the administration had, but it was a way that we were able to come to a win-win situation. And that kind of figuring it out and settling and surrendering some ground in order for all of us to, at the end of the day, sum in total more than our separate parts was something you learned as a sophomore. Somebody that, as a GM, I couldn't even legally drink. And so,
Try to be the GM and take it away from
I know,
school.
but as somebody who's barely 20, in charge of almost a $9 million budget, at the end of the day, the zeros didn't really matter, and so you went into your professional career kind of already emboldened to try and break stuff.
Thank you very much.
So in typical fashion, I'm a professional test engineer. We have systems and software who take longer than they need to. The deadline's a deadline, and so now I've got to deal with what's left. Afternoon, everybody. John Stack. I was president of the union my senior year, a couple of years after Michael. For me, RPI didn't necessarily start off as something that I always envisioned. It was not even really on my radar until I got some award called the Rensselaer Medal and couldn't figure out how to spell it exactly. And then I started taking a look at the school more and realized that it was a very real option. But for me, I didn't understand how unique this place was really until maybe sophomore year. Everybody before me has talked a lot about it, so I'm not going to keep stomping the message, but the amount of passion that our students have, not just for their academic careers, but for what they do in this building with student clubs and activities. These are the types of individuals who are going to be successful in their careers. We want the kinds of folks in industry who are going to spend their Friday night designing a stupid game in CAD and using the water jet cutters over in the MILL to cut it out and put it together for Winter Carnival the next day. Those are the types of students that I had the pleasure of interacting with. And I cannot thank this school and the union enough for helping shape what has become in my career. When I first became president of the union, I thought I had all the answers figured out. I had a roadmap for what we were going to do with the budget. And then I realized pretty quickly that that wasn't the right approach, and that wasn't going to help the student body in the long run. And so it truly was a learning experience. And we had some of the best staff in the world here, and luckily we still have them at this school. Dr. Potts and the entire team, they are what make the student body successful in their role. It's something as simple as Martha and Cameron finally realizing that we better go and buy helmets because the Senate and the E-Board are going to kill themselves playing broomball. that was our year, and yes, I went to Walmart at about midnight trying to buy 13 helmets, and they didn't all match. But it's also the amount of professionalism that the rest of the campus community envisioned for our students and held them accountable for it. One of my fondest memories, and it didn't feel so great at the time, but was actually coordinating that broomball game, and Norris Pearson was manager at the field house, and he was gracious enough to help us organize the ice time. And we had to work around, of course, paid activities. Well, some of the student senators and the executive board members didn't want to wait. And so they maybe got in the way of the professional student staff. And damned if I didn't have an email in my inbox the next morning from Norris wanting to have a conversation. And I made the mistake of ignoring it. And Norris made me realize quite quickly that that wasn't the right professional approach. It's those kinds of experiences here at the school that have allowed me to grow in my career. And that's why all of us want to help reach back, give the same experiences to current students so we can continue on the legacy of the Institute. So, thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Excellent presentations. All of you are less than 2 minutes, I'm happy to say. We really want to get a conversation going with all of you. Certainly we can do it by, you can ask questions to the people on the panel, but we've also agreed that we're going to take the liberty of calling on some of you. I'm going to model that behavior. I'm first, you're second. She picked the one I was going to pick, which is why I get to go first. I'm going to call on the GM that welcomed me back when I came back to graduate school, Mark Feinstein. Please stand up and say something intelligent, Mark. Yeah, you better use the mic, please.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Mark.
So I just want to pick up what Charlie mentioned, the Albert Harper Fund. This, as he mentioned, this is something, the year after I was Grand Marshal, and I was looking at how to start my career, George Lowe was beginning the capital campaign at that time and asked me to, if I'd be interested in staying on campus and working on the campaign, which I thought would be pretty interesting. So I did that. And while I was there, I got that real kind of, how things work. And I actually set up an endowment fund. And at that time, and it ran for a bunch of years. I put money in, and Carl Westerdahl and then Eddie Knowles kind of found worthy recipients of that fund. Basically, it was to be able to do projects or to be able to attend a conference or something like that of a student leader that the budgeting timing wasn't there and stuff like that. And I don't know, just a few years ago I just kind of said, I wonder whatever happened to that fund. I got some stupid time on my hands. And with the help of Neil Hernberg, and Neil's in the room, and I want to thank him. I want to thank him for doing a lot of work to find where that fund actually was, and there was actually some funds left in. And then did really the impossible in terms of helping do the paperwork and reformulating the fund that is probably one of the only endowment funds that the money is going to be, how it's distributed will be decided by former Grand Marshals. So we're at the early stages here of the new fund, and so all the former Grand Marshals that are here, you're hearing about it probably for the first time.
I think there's 17 Grand Marshals.
Okay, so my vision is to have like 6 of us, maybe one from every decade, to be part of this committee, to review applicants and applications and what we can do with the money. And it's not just for the GMs to use, it's for any student leader or any student who comes up with an idea, a sense of a project. Hopefully, maybe the next Big Red Freakout can be funded through this, and other traditions and things like that. So, if you're a former Grand Marshal, and this is something that is, first of all, we have to build up the funds. There's not much left. And I will commit that I will make a donation and start building it up. But I hope that all former Grand Marshals, whatever you can afford, whatever you can do, if you can do some of it to the Albert Harper Fund, that would be wonderful. And if you're interested in maybe being one of the 6 on the committee, even better. So please speak to me. So I just want to thank you all. As we heard, being a student leader, whether it's GM or PU, is an experience that you really don't get in any other way. And we've all, at least the ones I speak to, and I'm still in touch with a bunch, the guys my years. It's an experience that helps us the rest of our life. And I continue to be at functions. Last weekend I was at a function and I was introduced to a guy, oh, RPI. He looks at me and he says, oh, I know who you are. You were my GM. So it still happens. And I thought I got a little old. So thank you all. Thank you for hearing all your stories. Did I take my 2 minutes?
More to do. That's good. All right, thanks, Mark. We can't wait. Anne Marie, who are you going to call on?
Let me see. It's my, so the story behind this is when I was here, we were at a conference, because when I was president of the union, actually it was right after that, and I was getting elected to the board of ACUI. And I was standing in the elevator with Rick, and I said, Rick, you're old enough to be my dad, I think. And he was like, what? And I said, so I'm going to call you Dad from now on. And it gave people, like, every once in a while, people were like, ooh. So, yeah. So, fun story about that. So when I had my son is actually his godfather. He is the godfather. So I was going to preface this. I have to tell a story about Rick before I ask him what his most memorable moment was at RPI as you were doing Director of Student Union. Because anybody who was a PU during Rick Hart's years, raise your hands. Are you serious? Oh, okay. So, the thing that I learned most from Rick was how to maneuver the conversation without anyone else knowing your opinion. So we would meet weekly before anything would happen, and we would flush out all the things that we might have happen. In some cases it was, Marty, we had somewhere the movie that they wanted to show, we were like, ooh, this might be. So we would talk through the pros and cons of it so that we knew what things we wanted to get on the table. So I know his opinion and he knew mine, and we would sit in the meeting and I thought I was doing a good job of mediating, and all of a sudden I went, darn it, he maneuvered the conversation in his direction again. And so I'd be like trying to maneuver it back. So we'd be eyeing each other, trying to do that. So I learned a lot of, sometimes it's, you can't tell somebody what to do. You need the group to get to that decision on their own, because it's the best way to come up with that decision. So that's something I use to this day with, even in my kids, right? I get them to do what I want them to do. But even in my job, I've been at it for 29 years, and sometimes it's, I'm going to maneuver this conversation without them knowing where I'm going. So Rick, with that, I want to know what you learned from us on the student side. What is your most memorable moment from us?
Rick Hart. Yeah, Rick Hart.
She really is my daughter. You don't realize that, do you? She's Italian, I'm half Italian. So, boy, most memorable. You know, there are so many memories that I have of working with so many student leaders, you know, and I see so many of you here today. And that may be the most memorable thing I can think of, actually. The words that these 5 people and all of you have shared before and during your leadership and after your leadership and today are extremely important. One of the things I will say is that, and this kind of goes to what Mark was talking about, you as student leaders or students or alums have an opportunity to give back to the current student body as in their leadership roles, whether it's a club or whether it's student government or whether it's a project in the union itself. But you have an opportunity to do that. And it's really, really important, very important. And I think when I retired in 2011, that was one of the messages that I gave, and I continue to say, use your time and effort to give back to the current students. This is an opportunity. Now, I do have to say one thing, highlights. Izzy, I did get on stage with sheer idiocy. I was pulled up on stage by two of your compatriots in 2010, and I actually got to do a skit, and it was one of the most fun things I've ever done. And I'm still in contact with that student. Yeah, it's really neat. Many of you are Facebook friends, and you see my posts, and I love my therapy dog, and I love my wife, who volunteers with the Red Cross. And so all of you should be volunteering as well, alums, faculty, staff, and students. Thanks anyway.
So Mary, is there someone you're dying to hear from?
I do. I want to get an opinion from Paul Scarborough,
Okay,
who was a PU, because there's a lot of GMs here. And I tell you, one of the things that I learned, because Laura Tansky was the first woman PU, we were kind of like a team, but sometimes we fought like cats and dogs. And I was wondering, Paul, did you have that type of experience? What did you have?
Easy, Paul.
So I'm trying to be careful because my colleague, my office mate, is actually sitting right here in Jim. What made things just a little bit challenging at the outset was that we were from different parties. I was on the Olympus line, and Jim, what was
We were the Lackey Party.
the Lackey Party? That's right.
Our tagline was, "We get shit done."
But very quickly, Jim and I developed a rapport, and of course sharing an office kind of forces that on you. So I think the working partnership we developed, and we had some challenges along the way. And you mentioned, you asked who was present when Rick was director of the union. Well, actually, I was the person who hired Rick as the director of the union. Because we lost our director of the union at the midpoint of that year. And so, I'm sorry. Oh. So in the middle of the year, we had to organize a search committee, and we conducted a national search, and I was really pleased that Rick rose to the top of that process, because the union has been blessed over the years with some really legendary leadership in the professional side. Frank McNeil, of course, and I like to count Rick as in that legacy. Dr. Potts, we haven't had a chance to talk at length, but it sounds like, from what I'm hearing from the more recent student leaders, that you fall into that category as well. And so, echoing what others have said about the opportunity that these leadership positions have offered over the years, I used what I learned as president of the union every day. And so, and getting back to Jim, we worked very closely as a team on the selection of Rick as the director of the union, and I certainly couldn't have done the things I did as PU without a really strong partner in Grand Marshals. So.
Who do you want to call on?
I see a ton of students in the room, so I want to talk that table over there, any students. It's really hard to go to RPI, and now we're up here saying, do something on top of your classes. So any of you guys have any of you ladies or men have any questions? That's a student in the room. I want to hear from a student about how to do your academics and succeed and be a student government leader. Anybody?
If one of you don't stand up, I'm a former professor,
Right.
and I will call on you.
We want every one of you. There we go. Good job. Any question for any of us? Or any?
What's your name?
Yes. Hi everyone. I'm Caleb Carr. I am the current elections commissioner. I graduated about a month and a half ago, and now I'm back for co-term.
Oh, great.
Yeah, I have so much about balancing academics and student leadership. I was a learning assistant for 2 years, in the freshman dorms, teaching that kind of stuff. I guess my question for all of you, just to kind of flip it back on you, was, what has being like a GM or PU, being able to balance both that leadership and academics, how has that helped you specifically in your careers and your life outside of RPI?
That's a great question, Caleb. And by the way, my oldest is named Caleb, so we love it. It's a great question. So I will say, I'll go quick. There isn't a job in the world where all you have to do is do this one thing and punch the hole. Every job and every career is balancing priorities that are different and have different weights on them, and have different priorities for your bosses, your peers, your coworkers, and others. And the ability, my superpower is ADHD, but the ability to be able to juggle multiple things is probably one of the most important things in the business world today. Managing up, managing down, managing sideways, because there isn't a job in the world out there where all you do is punch that card. You have to do so many other things in your life, and getting a jump on it as an undergrad and learning that, I see the people as they start their careers. If all you did was your academics, you have a very tough time in that first 5 years learning how to do it. By doing these activities, you learn the muscle memory to be able to be successful in your career.
Yeah, so I was going to say, I used a lot of it actually in my work-life balance. So my husband was a PhD, I was a PhD, and I was the breadwinner of the family. He worked for, actually he made more money than I did sitting at a desk at home. But I had all 3 of my kids while starting a startup company. And if I didn't pick the right partner, that life choice would have been very difficult. So I always tell people when women are like, how did you stay in tech for 29 years? So I left with my PhD and went right into technical management, and I'm still doing those jobs today. I said, if I picked the wrong partner, this would have been awful, right? Like, he was excited, and I was like, you could be pregnant, then you can have the children, and he's like, no, we're gonna do this together. And again, I always tell people, pick the person that when you are at your worst is still going to be there for you, because they like you in your worst moments and your best moments. And there's one of my best moments right there. It's more than just your job life, because there is a work-life balance, because you could do your job well, but you need downtime. And for me it was ice hockey when I played here, which I learned actually so a funny story, which we talked about at the hockey thing a while ago, is when I became PU, my sorority sister said, can you skate backwards? And I was like, sure. She goes, we need a defenseman on the women's ice hockey team, and oh, by the way, we're trying to make it varsity, so can you help us with the paperwork? And I was like, okay. And it took us 5 years, but by the time I left, I was actually then the assistant coach the first year. It was Division III. So again, that was all in the stuff that you learn. So for me, it was, when I'm angry, don't take it out on your spouse. Go punch a bag. Go play some ice hockey. Go run and go do something.
Mary, what about the balance for you?
I think the balance is in humor, because I think if I'm always focused on things that I need to do, things that are really serious, and I can't laugh at myself, I'm miserable to be around. So for me, it was like developing a sense of humor and not taking myself so seriously.
John?
The balance for me really came down to trusting people around me to do things that I know I don't have time or can't do myself. And that's something that I struggled with originally in the role, and I figured out pretty quickly that I needed to trust members on the board, trust members in the Student Senate, to take on some of the less important, not necessarily less important, but things that I just didn't have the amount of time to invest in. And that's something I've taken forward into my career. And it's hard. It's hard in a leadership role to accept that you're not going to make all the decisions, but that's part of evolving into a good leader. So that was really important for me.
Michael?
The balance was we're a community, right? People don't operate on the name on the back of the shirt, it's on the front of the shirt. And so being courageous to take that step and maybe screw it up or see where it goes, I think you kind of, it's like gambling almost, seeing where you can position yourself. I actually remember the Steinway was donated by a estate of a professor who had passed away, and Rick and Martha came to us, and it was like middle of the year, right? And I wasn't PU, so I really didn't care about the numbers, but it was 40 grand or something to renovate it. And I was like, oh man, that means the concert. So you kind of went to the Troy building and batted your eyelids, and you mentioned this great opportunity, and you got the piano renovated, and we got Girl Talk to come to campus. And so you're like, that emboldenedness then led you to try and do other things. And that's life. You're kind of betting on the wages you've already won and lost, and you've learned how to position you're hedging your bets to optimize it again in the future. But the courage, has to start from somewhere, and that was the first step here.
So I'll give one quick last one is, you need to learn how to fail as well, and you need to learn how to ask for help. So before I was GM, I was running the radio station. I'm not sure if Rick was there yet. It was Rick or Eddie. It was Eddie Knowles I got in trouble with. It was my sophomore year, and the red lights burned out on the top of the stick. Well, WRPI is the largest totally student-run college radio station in the country, and John Ladiak, the chief engineer, who's shorter than Mary, he looks at me and goes, Richie, we don't have any budget, and we're out of money. And I'm like, well, what are we going to do? And he goes, well, let's not tell anybody. Let's you and I climb the stick. I was like, all right. So we climbed the stick. We had no harness on. We climbed the stick. Oh, boy. That got out. Oh, did we get in trouble? I'm like, why didn't you just ask for help? We're like, well, the budget, we had no money there. Why didn't you come to us and ask? So it was very funny because we got in a lot of trouble. The opposite of that is when I was GM, we would say to everybody, hey, come ask for help. I learned because I thought there was no solution, and you're dumb, you're 18, you're like, oh, we have no budget, we just got to do this. So on one hand, as an entrepreneur, great solution. On the other hand, as an undergrad here, really bad decision. Really bad decision.
Let's end on that note. Thanks the panel. The mugs are yours.
Thank you.
Now, please welcome Charlie back. Come on, Charlie.
Well, we're wrapping it up. We're getting close to the end. One thing that is relevant, I think, to share is that the opportunities that we have through the union are certainly intentional. And what you heard testimonially is that the complementary set of skills that you learn through the student governing process assist your professional development. That's on purpose. But I also care to give a shout out to our leadership for continuously working to refine our curriculum to ensure that that's as much a part of the learning process as the technical skill. I don't think there's anyone in our leadership that is missing the point that it's both sides. And it's a highly complementary, synergistic experience. That's frankly what we're all shooting for. And it's a privilege to be a part of the team. Now, as we close, I want to honor our friend Glenn Brown from the class of '54. Glenn is the 89th Grand Marshal. But more to the point, he donated that beautiful Steinway piano. And that has graced our front lobby now for several years. About a year or two ago, we refurbished it, and Glenn came back to play it. And it was just heartwarming to see he and Joan together in the piano room, and I got to listen. And so for this event, we wanted him to play the alma mater on his piano. And we want, just as a reminder, the two mugs on the piano, one is for bills, one is for coins. We want to play the piano man, you know? Yeah. Glenn. All right. The words to the alma mater on the back of the program.
You go that way. All right, good job, Glenn. Let's hear it up for one guy. Yeah! Woo! Yeah! As a closing, all former GMs and PUs are invited to come to the table area here for a team picture. Thank you for coming. All right, thank you. Can I get a wave? Can I get a wave for the video?